All right, so this is a little bit exciting because I've never done this just recording wise, but today we are going to watch me answer an entire SAT passage, not an entire section because we're not going to be here forever, but I'm going to navigate through an entire passage and just talk out loud so you can see exactly what types of things I look for in an answer choice, how do I eliminate, and some of these things just, you get very, very analytical and actually helps to watch someone do it as opposed to simply hearing the instructions like I've been giving you in the past few days. So let's get down to it.
All right, so when we last left off with this passage, we basically marked down the key pieces of information and highlighted, or rather box, circle, underlined the important parts in every question. Now, since I have to switch screens around, I'm not going to be able to underline every single question, but I'm still going to try my best to just jump around as much as possible. All right, so let's get started. Now, let's say I'm done reading the passage, and ideally when you're reading the passage, you also want to underline more pieces of information that may stick out to you. I haven't done that in this case, but because that's just a very personalized thing. So if you feel that there is something in there, let's say, for example, with number 4, where it said, oh, what's the reaction that's most feared? In this case, just go ahead and basically wherever you see that reaction, again, while you were reading along, so not because you went searching for it after the fact, because we're not at that question yet, but this is just while you were reading. If you came across it, then you can just go ahead and note it down. If you feel like you're getting distracted at some point, you're having a hard time just focusing because you don't understand it, because there's something else going on in the room, well, then start annotating more. Studies have actually shown that students who interact with the page more tend to do better, simply because they're able to focus a lot more and they have a stronger idea of what's actually happening in the passage. So when in doubt, just start marking. With that said, don't just mark up the whole thing, but use your judgment. Okay, so now with that said, let's just jump directly to the questions that we have, and we'll go in order based on the progression of the passage. So looks like we have number 3, which is a vocab and context question. So I actually should have gone in and, so I blacked it out, but I did not write in my own words. Let me actually just go ahead and do that. So Akira came, whatever, breaking all tradition, was that it? Had he followed something? Had he asked his mom to speak to his dad to approach a go-between? Would then she have been more responsive? So clearly the whole point was he was breaking all tradition. So he came, because then it looks like there's a process here. Mom has to speak to dad, who then has to speak to someone. So he came, let's see, what word do I want to say here? He basically came like straight up. Let's just say straight up. Notice I'm not trying to make this nice proper word. I'm not trying to come up with some formal word. If it's slang, it's slang. Just go with it, because no one's going to see this. Your test booklet is yours. Yes, they collect it at the end. That's simply to keep people from selling the test questions, but you are free to mark up as much as you want. Okay, so I'm just going to say straight up. He came straight up. Not even make grammatical sense, but cool. So, okay, well now, which one of these could mean straight up? Well, he came, okay, I guess frankly could mean that. Confidently is not what we're looking for. Without mediation could also mean straight up, so we're going to leave that alone. And then with precision's not it, because that's not really the right vibe of what we're going for. Okay, so now I have to look again at what's going on in the passage. So it says that he should have asked his mom, who should have asked his dad, who would have then approached this other middle person. So it seems more like no middle people, essentially, instead of the direct approach of talking frankly or being straightforward. So it's not that. It's going to have to be C, without a go-between, as they mentioned here. Notice once again, I kept referring back to those lines, and that's why they're in 2 different colors, because I just kept going back and saying, okay, but wait, let me reread that. Okay, but wait, let me reread that. So that's how we answered number 3. All right, and then we are going to go on. I'm just going to erase this part, because otherwise it'll just stay on the screen the whole time. And we're going to answer question number 7. So let's see what question number 7 has to say. Oh, okay. So question number 7 says, the main purpose of the first paragraph. Well, because I just did number 3, and this is supposed to be number 8, no. Okay, so because I just did number 3, I know that the whole point of this was that basically you're supposed to go through people to have whatever conversation, whatever he's trying to do. And he didn't go through people. So let's see. Main purpose of the first paragraph is to describe a culture. Well, okay, because we did read in the blurb that they're in Japan and it's 1920 and he's doing that. So we're going to leave that one alone. Criticize a tradition. Okay, so we know it's a tradition because this is what Akira feels he should have done. But criticizing, they're not criticizing. He's just saying, should I have gone to my mom, who would have then gone to my dad, who would have then gone to this mediator person, or the go-between? So it's not criticizing, simply someone thinking through his thoughts. I'm going to cross that out then. Okay, so then question a suggestion. Well, there's definitely a question, but it's not really a suggestion that he received. It's just he's questioning himself. Is it okay that I did this? Maybe it would have been more effective if I did it another way. So that's out. Analyze a reaction. Well, what's the reaction here? There's no reaction mentioned. We just knew that, oh, would that person have been more receptive? So yeah, a reaction is mentioned, and this is actually where we'd have to be careful with the whole partial thing. Because yeah, a reaction is mentioned because would this person have been more receptive? So that hints at maybe this person who's the mother of Naomi. So maybe Chia wasn't as receptive. But is it analyzing it? Because it just threw it out there as a statement. So it's not analyzing it, which then leads to option number 1. It's simply a description of a culture. All right, then moving to number 8. And I hope that reasoning made sense and I wasn't just making things up simply to get to a correct answer. All right, so then number 2. Now, once again, we're still in the same paragraph. And at this point, we really know what it's about because we just answered a couple of questions based on it. It's a culture. He didn't use a go-between, should have done it. So in this case, had he followed, he was breaking all tradition. Was that it? Had he followed blank, asked us, so you know what, in this case, I'm going to say had he followed tradition. So I'm recycling the word that was already in there. I'm going to say my own word is going to be tradition. So had he followed tradition, which is that he'd asked his mom, etc. But again, got my own word. Happens to be the same word that was in there because I'm not trying to spend that much time trying to answer these questions or come up with my own word rather. So, okay, cool. Now I just need something that matches tradition. Not appearance, custom, yeah, I'm going to leave that alone. Structure is not it and nature is not it. It's custom. Done. All right. And that is how we would have done those 3 questions. Now, then as we move on, so I'm going to go ahead and just delete this for the sake of our visual purposes, making it look nicer, cleaner. But now we're going to move on to questions number 9 and 10 because those are the next line reference questions. So with numbers 9 and 10, number 9 says, why did Akira say his meeting, which was a matter of urgency? And notice I've underlined the matter of urgency and then basically noted where it is in the text. Okay, so let's see. He says it's a reading the window in the glistening courtyards. She saw his reflection. So, madam, forgive my disruption, but I've come here. He was refined. Okay, so in this case, we may need to go a little bit further because we still don't know why it's a matter of urgency. So maybe expand it out to a little bit more. And then it says, because now he's getting insight, I don't want to trouble you. Normally I would approach more properly, but I've received word of a position. I've an opportunity to go to America as a dentist for Seattle's Japanese community. Okay, so what is his matter of urgency? He fears that his own parents will disapprove of Naomi. Well, that was never mentioned. The question of his parents never really came up, not after that little first segment of him doubting should he have approached his parents first instead of going directly. So that's not it. He worries that Naomi will reject him and marry someone else. I mean, if he does, then it's not in that whole vicinity of everything that we've read. So no. He's been offered an attractive job in another country. Well, yeah, I have an opportunity to go to America as a dentist for Seattle's Japanese community, and more properly, yeah, so we'll leave that alone. He knows that she is unaware of his feelings for Naomi. Okay, that is true. He is aware. He knows that she is unaware. because she clearly seems completely oblivious to who this guy even is. She even basically calls him adorable when he comes in. Somewhere, and that was somewhere there where he's like, "No, that's where I see Naomi." But that's not answering the question of why is it a matter of urgency. Okay, so that's why that's out. So notice that that was correct in the passage, it was there, but it does not answer the question of why it's a matter of urgency. So the correct answer here is C. And again, we actually have the exact lines of where that's written. So that's going to take us to number 10, which then it's not just that, it's B, right? Okay, so now that we've taken care of that, let's go ahead and do all the other questions. So starting from number 1, the general. Which choice best describes what happens? Well, from just what we've gathered, this dude is trying to approach the mother of the girl he wants to marry. He did not go the traditional route. He went directly to her. That seems to be the general trend. He's obviously a little bit concerned about how is she gonna take it. So let's see what matches that thought process. All right, A. So one character argues with another character who intrudes on her home. Okay, so now a couple of things here. Argues, there's no argument there. Intrudes, this dude was invited in, so that's out. All right, B. One character receives a surprising request from another character. Well, okay, so we could say that the mom receives a surprising request, which is, I guess, the marriage proposal from Akira. So we're gonna leave that one alone. One character reminisces about choices she has made over the years. There's no one going back in time and thinking, "Oh, hey, I remember that moment." At least not a female. I mean, if the very least, it's going to be Akira if he does, but not a female who goes back and says, "Oh, I wish I'd done that differently," or "Maybe I did, maybe I didn't." Who knows how that would have turned out? Okay, then D. One character criticizes another character for pursuing an unexpected course of action. Okay, so there is an unexpected, I guess, course of action, which is that Akira just comes directly, knocks on Chi and Naomi's door during a rainy storm. But I don't know if we would say it's criticizing, because the mom is just so startled by it, and then they don't really describe much in terms of her reaction, because he basically just says, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking. So somewhere I will take no time. Approach you in 2 weeks." But then he bowed and left. It seems like, and then does she know? Like, the mom's just trying to pick at him and say, "Okay, well, does Naomi know that you want to do this?" And then he explains himself, and then he leaves. But there's no mention that the mom is critical of him, or at least. And actually, and even if there is, of just what a fellow, how dare he think that he basically can marry? Yeah, but that's not what happens throughout. The whole point was a surprising request, because then that's actually what takes up the majority of it. This is all because of the surprising request. That whole part, up until then it was the build-up, but this whole part, as opposed to just like this little bit of criticism that was tossed over here. So again, that's something to keep in mind when you're trying to narrow the questions down. And okay, then number 2. Which choice best describes the developmental pattern? So basically, how's this flowing? Careful analysis of a traditional practice. No, flat out wrong. There's no traditional practice completely just analyzed. They mentioned that having a go-between was a traditional practice, but that's where that really ended. It came up once again with somewhere here, like in that vicinity, but that was it. And then, okay, so a detailed depiction of a meaningful encounter. It is detailed. It was really meaningful because this guy wants to marry Naomi, so we'll leave that alone. Definitive response to a series of questions. There was no real series of questions, and definitely not a cheerful recounting of it. So I would say B. All right. All right. So then keep going. What reaction does Akira, who is the guy, most fear from Chi, who is his potentially future bride's mother. Well, would she consider it inappropriate? Well, why would she do that? Well, we did actually cover in number 3 that he didn't follow tradition and he just approached her. So maybe she will mistake his earnestness for immaturity. Well, doesn't it say somewhere in here that he was actually, she thought of him like she would look at Naomi? Oh, right here. Akira's message, delivered like a formal speech, filled her with maternal amusement. When children speak so endearingly, they have no, that's how she viewed him as a child, and that's how she viewed Naomi. So, okay, but there's no immaturity, more of a, oh, he's so adorable. So I wouldn't really say immaturity, but maybe we can leave that too, if we really want to. Actually, that's not true, because in this case, he never says that she might think of him as immature. She looks at him and says, oh, he's so adorable. So that's actually out. All right, C. She will consider his unscheduled visit as an imposition. I mean, not really. Maybe. But it says, let's see, who is it at this hour? I think you should. And then Naomi's like, Mom, go see him. This dude came and he could forget well, he was soft, refined, he was straight, and she said he was sincere. And she felt herself starting to like him. So that doesn't sound like something that's going to be an imposition. So that's out. And then she will underestimate the sincerity of his emotions. Well, I mean, he never says that because, let's see, he brings up the proposal part here. So now we're going to need to see what Mom's reaction is to this potential proposal in front of him, not after he leaves. So basically says, abruptly he turned gentle. Here's him talking. So let's go between either method, come down to the same matter of parental approval. If you give your consent, I become Naomi's Yoshi. And she goes, ambitions, and then come. Okay, so there's hand. But he looked at her, he turned gentle. I see I've startled you. My humble apologies. I take no more of your evening. I will reapproach you in 2 weeks' time. Until then, good night. So, there was never anything about sincerity of his emotions. So the closest thing we have is the fact that what keeps coming up, which is the parental approval, like having a go-between. So we're going to go with that. And then, all right, I have to clear it. Okay, so then that brings us to number 5. Well, where's the best evidence? So number 33, line 33 says his voice was refined. That tells us nothing. That legitimately tells us nothing. So that's out. Okay, then 49 to 51. So we're looking at, you know how children speak so earnestly, so hurriedly, so endearingly about things that have no importance in an adult's mind? Yeah, but that again has nothing to do with what we said that she would consider his proposal. It's her perspective, not his. We need somewhere where it says he thinks that she might perceive something one way instead of the other. So that's out. Okay, yeah, so then that's out. There's 63 and 64. So this one is, please don't judge my candidacy by the unseemliness of this proposal. Well, okay, that actually makes sense because the whole point, again, is that whole go-between thing. So we're going to leave that one alone. And then 71, 72, eager to make his point, he looked at her in the face. That again, shows his sincerity, but it does not mention his fear that she might consider this inappropriate. So it's going to be C. And I believe, what is this? Are we down to the last one? Yeah, we're down to the last one. Okay, so then last question. In the passage, Akira addresses Chi with, so again, Akira is the dude, Chi is the mom. So in this case, how is this suitor addressing the mom of the girl he'd like to marry? affection, but not genuine love. I mean, I wouldn't go as far as affection. He's meeting her for the first time. So, yeah, that. Objectivity. This dude is trying to get married. He's not being objective. He's trying to be respectful and basically make sure that he doesn't in any way offend his future mother-in-law. So that's out. Amusement. Again, he's really trying not to offend. So that's out. And then respect. Yes, he is respecting an elder, but not deference. So he's basically not a pushover. He's not letting her step over him. He's, in fact, when she's asking him questions, he flat out says, like, does he know? Yeah, we have a flat out understanding. I know we'll live such and such. Eager to make his point. He looked her directly in the face. And then he basically says, I'm sorry, I'm pushing you. You know what? Here is my card. I will reapproach you in 2 weeks' time. That's not someone who's a pushover. He's basically saying, call me or I'll be back to find out more about this decision. So the answer is going to be D. All right, so I hope that helped basically figure out how to navigate this, work through the reasoning, and do a couple of practice problems on your own. See how this fares out for this particular passage and, of course, for the rest of the passages that are in this test. Remember that you have 10 free PDFs available from Collegeboard that you can practice on, so make sure you do that. Again, reminder to read the blurb. Make sure you take the time to look at all the visuals and so forth and understand them, because you will have questions that are based on them. So again, take your time, do it right. When you're first starting out, aim more for accuracy than for speed. So if one passage takes you half an hour to do, then it takes you half an hour to do. And we will talk about how to cut down on timing. So until then, good luck on basically all of your practice, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.